I went through my partner photo album and found something, and now we're on a break. The statement says it all. I feel shit about it. I know, I should not have gone through his phone. But when you have that feel, you just need to know. My partner went interstate for 2 days for a wedding. He barely texted me during those days, which bothered me, but I tried my best to understand that he's back with his friends having a much needed catch up. On the first day of his trip and immediately after he lands, he told me he was catching up with this girl, let's call her Sarah, whom he has met a few times, not sure why she was much of importance if his time over there was short. I wondered why he wouldn't just spend it with his other much closer friends. Closer friends such as his ex-girlfriend who is now his best friend, let's call her Emily, and BTW the way he talks about her, man, it's as if she's high on the pedestal. Anyway, Sarah convinced my partner to go out to a gig that night, and when he told me, I felt insecure about it, but I did not tell him. I felt insecure because of how long they've known each other, etc. Plus I have had a shit past with past partners about lying, etc. And my current partner knew this. Again, I tried to brush it off and tried to trust him. That same night, I texted my goodnights and went to sleep earlier than usual. I randomly woke up and responded to his text, which subsequently turned green. iPhone things, I was confused, and so I checked his location, and yes, we share locations for fun, and it was turned off. From there I just assumed his phone died, as he has a habit of letting it die, and so that's why the text went green, so I went back to sleep. Next day, I called him in the morning for a quick catch up and asked him about the location thing. He took it as me tracking him, which bothered me. Throughout the day, he barely messaged me. I also noticed his location was off this time, which honestly, made me feel even more shit. But he did try to text during the evening though. And it seemed like he had fun at the wedding. We don't live together, so when he came home, I just was not in the mood to visit him at the end of the day. I was feeling crap about the whole weekend. And retrospectively, I should have just stayed at home until I sorted out these feelings. But I went to see him anyway. We had dinner and he only showed me one photo of the wedding. I asked if I could see more and he said he'll have to wait until his friends sends the rest. But, he was kinda of defensive with that one picture. I had leaned in and asked where he was in the group and he said he's not there and quickly whisked it away. Before I can even have a proper look. This photo was of his friends and the bride/groom. I have never met any of his interstate friends. Wouldn't he want to show me? We then watched some weird movie. After the movie, I felt compelled to go on his photo album while he was in the bathroom and found something that made me feel crap. It was a video of Emily that looked like was in the club on Saturday evening. Even though he said he was with Sarah. And for context, Emily is Asian and Sarah is white. I asked him to detail the rest of Saturday and whether he went out with Emily that night too. He said she was busy preparing for the wedding. Emily is the sister of the groom. But that obviously wasn't true because of that video. He realized I went through his photos and basically kicked me out. Took my belongings in his apartment, placed it in a bag and told me to leave and said we would talk once he's thought it through. I'm in shock. Comment. We'd talk once he's thought it through. What he meant was once I've thought of a plausible excuse and called Emily to make sure she'd say the same thing as me if Op contacts her. Op, as miserable as the situation is for you, he has revealed himself for the man he truly is. Be grateful you found out now and not once you'd financially committed to living together, marrying him or, worst of all, having a child with him. Take a deep breath, dust yourself down and chalk this one up to experience before finding someone who won't treat you like s. Good for you for dumping him right away. In the future, don't date people you don't feel comfortable talking to when you feel insecure. That has no bearing on what your immediate ex did, but, you deserve a relationship with someone you can be vulnerable with. Someone who will reassure you genuinely when you feel insecure. Oh, the old reverse era. Common trick among liars and cheats. So he clearly up to no good and got caught, made this big song and dance to make him the victim now and you the villain. So when he decides to talk, he is now the victim, and you can no longer bring up that he has been lying to you and probably slept about during that weekend. That's what it sounds like to me. He slept about, and his constant lying and deflecting would be enough to end the relationship. I'd text him. So I've had time to think after the shock of your little childish outburst and decided, I'm going to call it a day on the relationship. Your behavior the whole weekend was sketchy and then you lied right to my face about who you was with and what you was doing, while your location was off, might I add. Then, you proceeded to throw me out, thinking you could get away with lying and most likely cheating. I don't need to know any more than what you have shown. If there is anything left at your place, either throw it or mail it to me, as I will be blocking you. Thanks. Then I'd block. He didn't kick you out because of this, he kicked you out because he's a gaslighter and he's lying to you. Come on, you can't be this naive. Consider yourself lucky, and when and if he calls you to get back together, I hope you're smart enough to say thank you next. He lied. You went through his personal diary, phone, and as a whole the location thing is controlling and stalker-ish on both parties. Why couples do this is wild and insecure. You both did behaviors unacceptable and worthy of breaking up, so end it and try to be a better companion. Going through someone's phone without their permission is creepy and stalker behavior. I would go to therapy to help with that. Story 2. I lashed out at my girlfriend because of something I found out about a previous guy. Looking for advice on how to approach regaining her trust? I've been in this relationship for about 1.5 years, and it has been the best time of my life. She is my first GF, and before this I was 100% sure that we were getting married. Now I think I might have ruined it. The other night we had an argument about something we've discussed before, but I learned something new that really upset me. Instead of talking about how I felt, I lashed out at her and said something absolutely horrible, and I don't know how she will ever fully trust me again. She very well may not, and I've been trying to prepare myself for that. Over the couple months before we started dating, she had been talking to another guy. I've known this for a long time and always felt weird about it because of how close her interest in him was to us starting to date. She's admitted that she talked to us both at the same time, and the situation has always made me feel so uncomfortable. I know that we weren't dating yet, and she had no obligation to me. But it still makes me feel like she picked him first, regretted her decision and started dating me as a backup. She has said many times that she didn't really like him and that there was a lot going on in her life and that she was just confused. But at the same time, they had intimate twice, so clearly she gave it a second chance. I do believe that she wanted to be with me over him, but again I've still always felt off about it. We've talked about it before, but we've always been drunkenly arguing about it, 2 times that I can remember, so I never remember anything about the fights. The last time we argued about it, again we were drunk, and all I remember is her looking insanely guilty and saying, "I thought you knew that." I've had a feeling that she told me something bad I didn't like, and I wanted to talk to her again about it. Well, the other night we had a few drinks and I'll admit that I was definitely drunk. Very stupidly I brought up the conversation, but I had a specific question to ask this time. I asked her exactly when she slept with him last. The answer was the same weekend that she reached out to me to plan our first real date. So within 24 hours of them having intimate, we were planning our first date. We talked in a mainly friendly way for a couple months prior. I know that we weren't dating. I know that realistically she didn't do anything wrong, but when she said that, I felt like such a backup boyfriend. It felt terrible. Anyway, when she said that, I became upset. I tried to explain to her how it made me feel, but all she did was get defensive and try to justify what she did. Again, I know she did nothing wrong really, and all I wanted was for her to just acknowledge my feelings and show me she cared about them. The argument escalated, and the details about the next 20 minutes or so are genuinely a blur, but I distinctly remember saying that what she did was whorish behavior. I've never said anything so vile to anybody in my entire life. She immediately burst into tears, and I seriously don't remember what happened after. I know I continued to yell and express myself disgustingly, but that's about it. I left and drove home, and it was then that what I had said to her hit me. The most hateful words to ever leave my mouth were directed at the person I love most in the entire world. I know I've betrayed her, and I can't begin to imagine how she feels right now. We talked on the phone tonight and have decided to take a week break so she can focus on herself and decide how she wants to proceed. I did write her an extremely lengthy and thorough apology. I apologized for specifically what I did/said and have tried to assure her that I would never say something like that to her again. I've been struggling with my mental health recently, not at all an excuse, and I told her that I would seek counseling and maybe medication so that I can become the man she fell in love with again. I've also decided that I will not be drinking anymore for the foreseeable future, as it makes me touchy and rash. In our call tonight she said my apology was good and she seems open to trying to work with me to repair things after our break. I know she may change her mind, and I absolutely respect that. I didn't treat her like she's the most important person in the world to me, and I just hope she is willing to give me a chance to right my wrongs. Anyway, she said she loved me still, but she really had no idea what to do. I told her I understood, and if she wanted to try to reconcile that, I swear I would put in the effort to be better. I've also assured her that I would never bring up that guy again. Not really sure why I wrote this. I think I just needed to get it off my chest. Feel free to bash me, I'm truly a piece of shit. If you have advice, however, I would appreciate it, and if you read all of this, thank you. Comment. The only advice I can give is please have these conversations when you're not drinking. Also, please don't drink and drive. Okay, honestly I used to sound like you, lol, starting shit with my ex when I got drunk. Then I got help with my alcoholism and the issues no longer occurred. I know this isn't the advice you probably want to hear, but just like the others have commented, it sounds like an alcohol problem. If the only time you argue about it is when you're heated because you're drunk, it would only make sense to cut the alcohol if you want to stop the recurring argument. And if you're looking for your girlfriend to forgive you, I would just be honest about that and don't drink in front of her anymore. Or maybe at all. Bruh, WTF are you on about? She is dating you, obviously you won the competition. Time to man up and own your drinking issue, because you are the one manufacturing problems in your relationship out of thin air, it would seem. Those who are focused on the past aren't living in the present. Did it matter to you last week before finding out? No.